Astrology Time, Shane here, daily-astrocat.com. And so today is Monday, and it's the 23rd of February. What's the astrology hold for today? Well, first of all, you got me in the daylight, which is kind of interesting because I did this purposely. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to do is I've got my Pisces season that I'm going to be doing. I'll be working on that later on today. I do have a couple of little work things to do as I look over at the phone, expecting it to go bing, because there was an email sent out to 17 people saying, "How you doing?" And, everybody's kind of snowed in. We're not really doing too much right now. So let's talk about this. The moon in Taurus is void of course at 5:29 p.m. It will enter Gemini exactly 4 hours later at 9:29 in the evening. Now, this is a great day to be stuck at home for the most part. Yeah, we got Taurus, right? The moon's in Taurus. The moon likes being in Taurus, right? Taurus likes the moon. The moon likes Taurus. Taurus is things that make us comfortable. So hopefully you're comfortable. Now, and if you're not on the East Coast, you're going to be out and about and doing things and everything. However, you're going to be a little bit slowed down because when the East Coast shuts down, the whole country kind of just tends to slow down just a little bit, all right? So today does not favor action, okay? Now, we're going to be talking somewhat about let's talk about this. The Mercury retrograde is coming up on Thursday. All right, so look, the moon in Taurus is square Mars in Aquarius. That's why we're not really in the mood for much activity, action, physical activity. Now, the world's financial markets are hit or miss today, and gold is actually at an all-time high thanks to the announcement of tariffs from Washington. Now, despite the fact that the Supreme Court said that those tariffs are essentially illegal, but they're going to impose more. Okay, because they're just retaliating. Now, it's cause and effect, essentially. And as far as the financial markets are concerned, now why are we talking about this? Why am I telling you about this? Well, because it's a Taurus thing. The moon is conjunct Uranus in Taurus. Volatility, sudden change. Yeah. Okay, so New York Stock Exchange probably closed down today. So I didn't even check into that, but I would not doubt that, because New York is supposed to get a lot of snow as well. So let's talk about this. It's going to seem difficult. Now, how can we get out in front of some things? How could, if all this stuff is hindsight, right, as far as these markets are concerned, because I'm reporting it in real time, but I could have told you that yesterday too, because it just points to the volatility of it all. And honestly, the futures are down 200 points on the Dow, so it is what it is. Now, it's going to seem, it's going to be something that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that retrograde because now I want to give you something to arm yourself moving ahead rather than looking at something that's happening in real time. Just give a little bit of projection there. Okay, so it's going to seem difficult to do that, but we're going to do it anyway. And the less activity that we've got going on is going to give us more time to think, especially after the moon enters Gemini. And today's keyword is idle, as in, just idle. Idle hands, idle, or maybe like an idling car. And looking out my window here, all I see is white. So guess what our color is? White. Now, with that being said, that's a totally selfish way to look at it too. But I have a window open in front of me, and I'm just looking at a fence and looking at a house, and everything's covered in snow. So the winds, they may be howling, and they are, but there's plenty for us to focus on to not pay too much attention to that. Well, once I close my window, I suppose, watching everything shake and sway. Now, this will affect people outside of the region because they're not going to seem quite so busy. I already said that. I mentioned getting ahead of something, and I'm picking Thursday's Mercury retrograde. Why is today good for this? Well, the moon in Taurus is urging caution financially due to the conjunction with Uranus, right? Pisces season is here, and money is kind of tangential to the Pisces agenda. It really is. It's not that character there. It's not concerned with that. It's more like the more money, more problems. The problems get you to escape. The problems get you to do other things. And Pisces, they're dreamers. They just want to imagine what their best life could be, or your best life would be, in the case of Pisces, because they're not so concerned about themselves as they are about others, to the point of their detriment. Now, the moon in Taurus. Yes, we're doing it cautiously too. Now, what happens is we begin to intuitively, now this is the strength of Pisces. All the water signs actually have this, but Pisces in particular is intuitively we're going to be doing things that's going to impact how we gain and spend that money. It doesn't work in a linear fashion. It works in a okay, that moon in Taurus, thinking about the markets. And why am I talking about markets anyway? What am I talking about this stuff for? Well, that's because I'm intuitively heading in that direction to talk about what it is that we want to be doing with gaining and spending money during a Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury retrograde, our boilerplate. Oh, yes, we do have a boilerplate for Mercury retrograde. What is it? No new contracts, no large purchases. You want to make sure that mechanical things, you don't want to buy a new phone. You want to make sure that your personal electronics are fairly secure. And you want to also make sure that you're very careful and deliberate about communication, because communication gets fraught, and it's not impossible, and it's not impossible to do all those things, but it's just not really advisable because the contracts tend to need to be renegotiated. Any purchases will tend to need to be returned. If not returned, then they may work out. If you do so scoff and say, I'm going to take this computer apart, that computer's going to brick. It only happened to me. Happened to me once. I did it during a retrograde. I said my intention was to do it, and I went ahead with my intention, and I should have just listened to what my intuition was telling me, which was you really shouldn't push this intention. Although I have done it with other purchases and stuff like that, only because we've been considering them before the retrograde. So that's one little part of the retrograde. Now, there's look, when we're talking about the retrograde, there's an underlying thread of wistful creativity that will weave nicely into our day as it lengthens. Can I capture your attention long enough to reframe the impending Mercury retrograde and what it's bringing? Now, this is important because it's not stop and put the brakes on everything. It's not put the brakes on your communication or anything like that, or everything's going to be messed up. Of course it's going to be messed up. It's going to take more time, right? We're going to have to restate. There's rewords that are in there in Mercury retrograde that makes it that perfect reframing of what you think of it to be a perfect way to describe it, right? We revise, we rework, we edit, we re-edit, we redo things. We're just repeating things that we're doing. In Pisces, those things are very intuitive, and they harken back to some nostalgia. So when we're doing creative things, we're doing things that we've done before. We want to be moving, we want to move forward, but in order to move forward, we got to go backwards a little bit, because that Mercury motion, it is optics, and it's not really moving backwards, but it's going backwards through the charts because it's overtaking the Earth, or the Earth is lagging behind. And so once they get on the other side, that is when we just keep on going forward. Now, if I captured your attention there, the Mercury retrogrades are not a disaster. They're something that can be managed, and they're managed by knowing that we're going to revise, rework, and re-edit things. We're going to go back and revisit places that we've been before. And you're going to see in the astrology that plays out that we're going to be revisiting a lot of points that we were in the last, say, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, that are going to be repeating. And it's going to be a development of that. And it's going to be a chance to go back and revise some of our actions, some of our words, some of our attractions, whatever it is that we happen to have, and actually also our relationship with abundance. That is something that's also going to be on the table for renegotiation, that reword. All right, so now that I've captured your thing, dig into your back catalog and revive a few ideas that you may have had previously. This is a good activity for today. The moon in Gemini will love this, and all sorts of ideas and feelings may arise because we're got Mercury in that Pisces thing. Now, the moon in Gemini, loves it. Mercury retrograde in Pisces naturally leads us down this path. This path. And this is what we're going to get an early jump on today with. We must create. We must continue to speak and communicate. More importantly, we need to express our ideas in what I can only call holistic ways. What do you mean by that, Shane? With our eyes, our bodies, the body language, and with the energy that we put into our personal interactions, behind our words, and into our intentions. AI, think about this, can't take that away from us. It can't take away that bond. It can't take away me talking to you. It can't, maybe it can lean into a camera, but I'm not going to look the same. Trust me, I've seen some pictures of myself in AI, and they're pretty convincing. However, they're not the same thing. Now, but think about this. AI may not be able to take that from us, but we can definitely take things from AI as long as we learn how to use it. Learn how to use it. Don't get lazy. That's all there is to it. Now, let's throw some love Canada's way, okay? Because let's do this. Our birth today is Marc Garneau. He was born in 1949. He's a Canadian astronaut. He is the first Canadian to enter space. Absolutely fantastic. Born in Quebec City, Quebec. And he was on 2 space shuttle missions. And he actually died in 2025. And our event is in 1995, keeping it with the Taurus theme. The Dow Jones Industrial Average closes above 4,000 for the first time. Ooh, that's a big number, right? By contrast, the Dow currently stands at 49,000 and change. Last week, it was over 50,000. So that gives you some idea of where it's come in, say, like the last 30 years. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for coming by. Trying to keep this, it's not short, but I'm trying to just keep it as interesting as possible. So please leave comments if you feel so inclined. I love getting back to you. Appreciate and love every single one of you. Today is what is today? 6. Happy astrocatting.